So, Riley, Wolves and wagers. Are the Timberwolves a top 5 team in the NBA? Right.
It's tough to find, many more teams that you'd have over them right now, right? I mean, ESPN had them ranked, I think, fifth as of yesterday in their power rankings. Like they're a good ball club right now. They should be undefeated. Now they're not, but that's fine. Like you're 5-2, you're third in the West as of now. You got the Warriors right on your tail, but still earlier in the season, obviously. But a lot of quality wins on the schedule, right? That's why I have them over a team like the Mavericks, who have looked really good this year, 6-2, but they don't really have like a win that jumps out at me. And like we were talking, you play who's on the schedule, right? But they haven't really played anybody yet. The Wolves have two very quality wins. They took care of business yesterday in a game where the old Wolves would probably lose or make it a big old heartache. But can't complain at all about yesterday's game. I have nothing bad to say. Like there's nothing even to touch on as far as that I saw. But what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I got the Timberwolves currently slated as number 16 in the NBA. And we kind of have talked about this. We knew they were going to be a really, really good regular season team. You look at this starting five, and then you look at who's coming off the bench, especially with how Naz Reid is playing right now at a sixth man of the year type of level. When they're playing like this, especially with Cat now, still what do you have? 3 rebounds, 0 assists. But
23 points.
He got this game going. Him and Mike were 8 of 10 from deep in the first half. I mean, yeah, so many positives, but I have them slated in at number 6. Dallas is like borderline for me, just with how Luka has been playing. I think Steph is probably the only other guy who's playing at a higher level right now. But yeah, I mean, not a lot of complaints right on my side.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe this is the new Cat, right? He fouled out again, which is not what we want to see. But 9 of 12 from the floor, 4 or 5 3-pointers, zero assists, 3 rebounds. But he did what he needed to do, right? He played within the offense. It wasn't like it was jaggedy like it has been in games past and years past, like trying to make this work. And that was the biggest positive for me, was watching how fluid the offense was. The ball wasn't sticky, and it led to everybody getting their shots. And it kind of turned out the way I like, where the only guy who ever really did any ISO was Ant yesterday. So I really like that. Huge game from Mike. Still has only committed 1 turnover, and it was less than a minute into the season. Sleeper for me, and he did not score a single point, was Nickeil Alexander-Walker. This is his second good game in a row. He had 8 assists in 18 minutes last night. Played within the offense. I think he only took 1 shot attempt. Did everything he needed to, running the backup 1. Shake Milton looked like he's finally starting to carve out a bit of a role and understanding of what he's supposed to do when he's in there. So that was good to see. And then obviously we got to talk about Rudy, I guess. Best game in a Timberwolves uniform, I think, right? 17 and 21.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is his 6th 20 rebound game as a Timber Pup, and I think that's the all-time franchise record already, and he's been here for not even a year and a half. So Rudy Gobert has been playing absolutely great basketball, and I like how you talk about Milton too. There was early in kind of that first half, he had that nice and one, he hit that big 3. And I like that he tried to get the ball to Rudy. Rudy had great position. It ended in a turnover, but I just love how Milton's playing right now for this team, that he can go get you a bucket and he's not a liability on defense. But one thing I want to quickly talk about, and then I'll kick it back to you about Rudy. Did Valanciunas and Robinson Earl have the Wolves at minus 10.5? Because there was a stretch in the first half, Riley, where it literally felt like they were trying to throw the basketball game. But let's talk a little bit more about Rudy. That was just something that I had in my notes that I had to mention.
Well, I'll touch on that for a second, because how are you 7 feet tall like Valanciunas is? And he probably missed 2 or 3 like legit layups, like actual layups where like not one of those 6-footers where you'd expect to make because you're in the NBA, but like an actual layup. He missed like 3 of them right at the cup. So that was funny. He only finished with 6 boards. I guess I had a wrong read on him for gambling, but not a good game from him. But yeah, Rudy Gobert, I mean, 21 boards, 17 points, shot efficiently from the field, much better from the free throw line compared to his 2 for 11 performance the other night. But man, he's just looked rejuvenated. Like he's got this defense clicking, number one defense in the NBA, and it's scary. It's a scary sight when you can have Rudy doing that. Cat looks really good next to him defending, and then you got just ball hawks on the perimeter and Ant and Jaden.
I think we have to talk about Karl-Anthony Towns' defense. I think Jim Pete was talking about it where Rudy's number one in like all defensive metrics this year.
Yep.
Fantastic. And it looks like it. You can tell he's got more just bounce in his step. He looks like the Utah Jazz Rudy that Tim Connolly was trading all those picks and players for. But Cat, and I don't know where he was getting the stat from. I'm just going off of what he was saying. Number 2, right behind Rudy in defensive metrics.
Yeah, he's got
a
sub 100.
True, yes, that's great, Riley. That's great because if he's 6 of 7, 4 or 5 from deep in the first half, and then he's providing a defensive side with Naz Reid coming off the bench and Rudy playing at an all-NBA level, goodness gracious. But last thing I wanted to touch on that you talked about was just the flow and the movement. I think in the first half, 21 assists on 26 makes. Or something like that, or maybe that was at the end of the game. I could have my notes wrong, but that's absolutely unbelievable when you can have Ant kicking it across to Mike for a corner 3, finding Jaden, finding Milton, finding Cat. It was great, right?
Yeah, Anthony Edwards had 8 assists in the first half. He finished with 8 in the game, but he had every one of them was in the first half, and that just goes to the flow of when the game was close. And he had that another nice lob to Rudy. And I think that's what's really going to scare other people in the Western Conference is, can Anthony Edwards once or twice a game find Rudy for that lob? Because that opens up so much more for him in the mid-range and driving to the hoop with like big men having to stick maybe a little closer to Rudy. And then that's when he can go, slam it down or get a layup, little pull-up float or whatever it may be. But he made every right read, all the kickouts. He kicked out to Shake in the corner for a 3. Kick out to Naz in the corner for a 3, like you said, skip pass to Mike for a 3. Like he was doing everything you needed him to. And the crazy part is, it wasn't even that great of an Ant game. He finished 10 of 22 from the floor, but in the first half he couldn't really buy a bucket. But he still finished with 26 points, 3 boards, 8 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. Like he was stat stuffing in a game where he wasn't even overly impressive, but he was just making all the right reads. So. If Ant can continue to play at this superstar level that he's been at and play within the offense and not have to shoulder the weight in these games like this, that's going to pay dividends down the road when it's time to play big games and you're not fatigued from an entire year of battling.
Yeah, and I think that was just kind of the tale of the first half is, they were just making the right choices. And when you come off a big win, an emotional win in overtime against who I have as the best team in the NBA right in front of Denver right now, you need to come out in the first half and take care of business when CJ McCollum and Zion Williamson are not on the floor for the Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great. But do you have anything else you want to touch on? I kind of want to talk a little bit about the Wolves in the Western Conference, though, because I'm looking at some teams like the Kings, Clippers, Lakers, who are 9 through 11, who have a lot of talent. But do you have anything else you want to touch on? I don't have any negatives from the game, exactly. But if you got anything else you want to touch on, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
No, I've touched on everything that I have wrote down here. Like we both have no negatives. I cannot even pinpoint to one thing that I didn't like. Maybe Cat fouling out again, but they just took care of business in a game where they should have. Right, you're playing essentially the Pelicans' third stringers at that point for the most part. But yeah, the Western Conference, it's loaded this year. So to buy these wins right now, they're 3-0 in the conference. That's not small.
Huge. Yeah, and kind of just going to talk a little bit about the West. I mean, the Suns in the 7th spot, the Kings, the Clippers, the Lakers. Like the Timberwolves have to take care of business in the regular season to be a top 16. Like we cannot, with this much talent, be in a playing game and go against possibly one, if not 2 of those teams and lose on any given night, even at the Target Center right now. But what are your thoughts on the West? I'm just super pumped because I think Minnesota is a top 4 team in the West right now, any way you look at it, which is what we were hoping for and what we're hoping for at the end of the season. But do you got anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, it's a great point because the Wolves have been in the play-in 2 straight years, this is the year you really don't want to be in it, right? Because the Lakers have not impressed me whatsoever this year, and they're finally starting to show their age a bit and whatnot. But they're the Lakers. You have LeBron James. You have Anthony Davis, right? They're going to be at least a play-in team. And that's a team you, like you mentioned, you do not want to see, even if it's at the Target Center. You don't want to be in a win-or-go-home situation against a squad like that. So to be able to secure a top 6 spot, that would be huge. And like you were touching on, you can sneak into the top 4, and currently they're 3rd in the West. I know we have a lot of season left. Hosting a playoff series, then you don't have to try and steal home court advantage. So I don't know. The West is going to be a gauntlet. Sacramento is going to be better than they are. What are they, the 9th seed right now? But De'Aaron Fox has missed time. He'll be back shortly. That's a team that's also built like the Wolves, where they're going to win a lot of regular season ball games. The Clippers, they'll figure it out. They're slated in the 10 spot right now. They looked really good pre-Harden. Not so great with Harden, but they'll figure that part out too. It's going to take a little bit of time to mesh when you have 2 MVPs and 4 all-stars, 4 Hall of Famers. You have 4 Hall of Famers on your team. So
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I'm just happy that the Timberwolves took care of business during this home slate, because you kind of got a gauntlet of those games coming up. But really excited for the matchup with Wemby. Do you want to touch on the Spurs here? I know we're going to have an episode before we kind of end this episode. Ant versus Wemby. What are your thoughts?
I saw an interesting tweet. I can't remember who said it, but they said every GM in the league would trade Anthony Edwards for Victor Wembanyama, given the chance. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, I get it from a prospect standpoint, right? He's on a rookie scale deal, biggest prospect we've had since LeBron, but there hasn't been a player that's like connected with Minnesota like Ant has since probably KG, right? Like Cat has, when a younger Cat really connected with Minnesota, still does, shows a lot of love for him, but in the way, like the charisma, especially, and just the talent and the like will to win, we've not had that since like KG in Minnesota. So I don't know if the Wolves would do that trade, right? And it's better to have, one bird in the hand than two in the bush or whatever. Like, what you're going to get with Ant. He's durable. He hasn't missed much time in his career. Wemby has. He missed, I think, half the games with the 36ers or whatever that team was that he played on last year. So I'm not going to go too much more into that, but I'm excited for Friday, getting that matchup. It's the first in-season tournament seeding game, or however that works. So got to go win that if you want to have a chance, at the tournament. But I'm excited. Should be electric. I wish it was on national TV. Doesn't matter. People are tuning into the Wolves right now.
Yeah, I'm just super pumped. Ant, Wemby, like you said, in-season tournament. But stay tuned, because we're going to have an episode even looking further into this matchup. We're really excited for Friday night. Wolves going on the road to take on Wemby and the Spurs.